All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down a really important provisional remedy in Philippine law, Rule 61, Support Pendente Lite. Think of this as a powerful tool designed to provide a financial bridge when it's needed most, right in the middle of a court case. So, let's dive in and see how this thing actually works.
So, picture this. You've got a legal battle for support or maybe recognition, right? But these cases, they can drag on for months, sometimes even years. So what happens to the person? And let's be honest, it's usually a child who needs money for food in school right now. The bills don't pause for a final judgment, and that is the exact problem Rule 61 was made to fix.
And the solution has this fancy Latin name, Support Pendente Lite, which literally just means support pending litigation. The best way to think of it, it's a legal lifeline. It's a temporary order from the court that makes sure one party gets the money they need for essentials. We're talking food, shelter, education, while the main case is still going on. It's all about providing that immediate relief.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what this legal lifeline is and what you need to get it. Then we'll walk through the procedure step by step. After that, we'll look at the court's order, what happens when it's issued, and what the consequences are. We'll also touch on a really unique connection to criminal cases, and then we'll wrap up with some critical pitfalls you've got to avoid, especially if you're studying for the bar. So first up, the foundation. How do you actually get this legal lifeline started? Well, Section 1 of the rule is super specific about the requirements for the application itself. These are not suggestions, they're mandatory.
Now, this is where you got to pay attention to the details. You can file for this right at the start of a case, or really any time before the final judgment. But, and this is a big but, it has to be a verified application. That oath you take, it's not just for show. It gives the whole thing its legal power. You have to clearly state your grounds. And here's a point people often miss. You have to lay out the financial conditions of both parties, not just yours. The court needs the full picture. And finally, you can't just say things. You have to prove them with actual documents like affidavits and depositions. Okay, so let's move on to the actual procedure. The whole point of Rule 61 is speed. This isn't meant to be some long, drawn-out mini-trial. It's designed to be a quick, summary process to figure out if someone needs help now.
The flow makes a lot of sense. It kicks off when the claimant files that verified application we just talked about. Then, to make sure it's fair, the other party gets served and has a chance to respond with their own verified comment. From there, the court quickly sets a hearing, not to decide the whole case, just to get the facts needed for temporary support. And finally, based on what's presented, the court makes a call and issues an order. Now, check out these timelines because they really highlight how urgent this is. Once the other party gets that application, they have just 5 days. That's it, 5 days to file their verified comment. It's a super tight deadline, and it shows that the rule means business when it comes to providing prompt relief.
And the clock keeps ticking fast. As soon as that comment is filed, or even if the 5 days pass without one, the court has to set the hearing within 3 days. 3! So this isn't some motion that's going to sit on a clerk's desk for weeks. The rule forces immediate action to get everyone in front of the judge.
So, the hearing is over. The judge has made a decision. What now? Well, this is where the rule really shows its teeth. The court's order is not a polite suggestion. It has serious weight and comes with clear ways to enforce it, and also to reverse it if needed.
You know, when the court decides on an amount, it's not just pulling a number out of thin air. Section 4 says it has to do this careful balancing act. It looks at the real needs of the applicant, the financial capacity of the other party, and, this is key, it takes a quick look at the probable outcome of the case. It's basically making an educated guess based on justice and equity, not a final decision on the whole case.
And this slide lays out the two sides of the coin perfectly. On one hand, you have enforcement. If the person ordered to pay just doesn't comply, Section 5 kicks in. The court can issue a writ of execution, meaning it can seize assets, and that person could also be held in contempt of court. But what about the flip side? What if the court's final judgment says, hey, this person was never liable to begin with? That's where Section 7 comes in with restitution. The person who received the money has to return all of it plus legal interest, so it's fair for everyone involved.
Now for a really fascinating and vital twist. Support Pendente Lite isn't just for family law cases. It actually has a very specific, very powerful role inside criminal proceedings too.
So get this. Section 6 says that if a crime, like rape, for instance, results in the birth of a child, you can actually file for support for that child within the criminal case itself. You don't even have to wait for a conviction. This makes sure the child gets support while the case is ongoing. And look at this list of who can file on the child's behalf. the victim, her parents, grandparents, guardian, even the state itself. It just goes to show you, the law's main concern here is the child's welfare.
All right, for all my law students and bar reviewees out there, lean in close. This section is for you. Rule 61 might seem simple, but believe me, there are common procedural traps that can absolutely sink an application or a defense. Let's do a quick fire round of what not to do. These are the classic mistakes. First, filing an unverified application or comment, that's a non-starter. It'll get thrown out. Second, only stating your own financial situation. Remember, the rule says both parties. Third, blowing past that strict 5-day deadline to comment. You miss that, you might have just lost your chance to argue your side. Fourth, making claims without any proof. You have to attach those supporting documents. And finally, for the person ordered to pay, just ignoring the order is not a strategy. It's a one-way ticket to a writ of execution and a contempt charge.
And if you ever need to remember the heart of this rule, just come back to this quote from Section 4. This is not about winning on a technicality. The entire point is for the court to do what is just and equitable while the case is still pending. It's all about fairness, balancing needs and resources, and making sure nobody falls through the cracks while the wheels of justice are turning.
So what's the big takeaway here? At the end of the day, Rule 61 stands for a simple but powerful idea. For people who are in urgent need, justice can't afford to wait for the final verdict. It is a swift, it is an enforceable, and it is an absolutely essential legal lifeline.